Today on Locked On Red Wings, breaking down the addition of JT Compher.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily JAWWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And on today's episode, it's going to be pretty simple, guys. Not a lot of news and notes for you. I mean, the latest update on Alex DeBrincat, I'll just give it to you right here, is the fact that supposedly, according to Elliot Friedman on NHL Network, that he wants to go home to Detroit, and that's basically it. That Detroit's working towards a deal to get it done, but that's not really much of an update from what we told you yesterday. And all I know is if you're hearing this episode, that means a deal did not get done on Thursday evening.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. So we're recording this at about 5 p.m. on Thursday, because we don't expect any news to happen. If there was a trade that would happen, this episode would get scrapped. We would start a new one if it happens, before like midnight or whatnot. So yeah, if you're hearing this, it's because DeBrincat is still on the Ottawa Senators.
As of right now, he is on the Ottawa Senators. Although if he gets traded during the weekend, it's going to be a bummer too, because then we're going to have to wait till Monday to put an episode out. So a reaction is going to feel so delayed.
Yeah, do it on Sunday.
Do it on Sunday. That'd be
actually no. I have a crazy busy day on Sunday. Do it on Monday.
Yes, make sure you adhere to Scotty's schedule when trying to make a trade.
That feels like not too much to ask.
But anyways, outside of that, we're going to talk about JT Compher because this is a light episode. We figured we'd dedicate the most amount of time to what is probably the second biggest signing, first biggest signing. It depends if you think Shane Gostisbehere was a bigger signing or not than JT Compher. This is definitely the longest and most money, but in terms of impact, it might be one, maybe two. But JT Compher, Scotty, as we all know, 5 years, and is getting $5.1 million per year. He has a modified 10-team no trade clause, 6'10", or 6'0". Sorry, not 6'10". That'd be amazing.
6'10".
If he was 6'10", that'd be awesome. Right-handed shot, can play center or right wing. I guess the quickest way to just kind of launch us in is he's a valuable addition to the middle six, but it feels like 5x5 is quite a hefty price to pay. But kind of circling back to what we talked about yesterday with Justin Hall, that's free agency in a depressed market, right?
Yeah, 100%. This is one of those situations where the fact that the free agency market was as, I don't like using the word weak, but shallow as it was for sure, led to some players probably getting a little bit more than maybe a lot of people anticipated. And Compher is probably one of those people for sure. But even though I completely agree with the sentiment, like throughout this episode, we'll talk about the pros and cons and whatnot. And I want to start off right by saying I agree that it is more than I would have projected Compher to get and more than his value probably is immediately. But I am very, very willing to live with this contract. I think that it's one that's probably going to be worth it. I really, really like the addition of JT Compher, and we talked about it a little bit on the free agency episode when we first signed him right earlier this week. I think there may not be a more perfect system fit than that was available in all of free agency. I think that he is the perfect kind of, maybe prototype is too dramatic, but I think that he is a perfect fit for the type of system that Newsy and that the Red Wings are trying to run. And if the system looks like it did last year, he's going to fit in very, very well.
Yeah, I think he will as well, whether it be at 2C or 3C or even at right wing, depending on wherever they decide to slide him. I would imagine at center, just given how valuable that right-handed shot is that he has.
Yeah.
But to go back to the salary thing real quick and the contract thing real quick before we get into his play style. I mean, if you guys pay attention, Steve Yzerman has said it like blatantly. He doesn't like giving out long contracts. So far, outside of Larkin's 8 years, 5 years is the max he's ever given any player to play for the Detroit Red Wings. And that's because if you sign players to contracts no more than 5 years, you have this nice rolling salary cap. Because a lot of what these teams do that ends up screwing them in the end is if they don't win a Stanley Cup, but they have a bunch of guys signed to 7-8 year deals, now you didn't win a Stanley Cup. You have an aging core and no salary cap. Steve Yzerman, while I'm not a big fan of the 5 years he gave JT Compher, everyone he's signing is 5 or less years. And most of them are like 1 or 2 years. That means every single year you're going to have contracts coming off the books, giving you flexibility every offseason as the cap goes up. So when Comp and when Compher and when Sherratt's contract are up, like that's going to be a huge amount of money coming off the books that you can then spend towards another younger player. He's doing a great job of, regardless of whether or not we hate or love the dollar amount he's giving these guys, they're at a length at which by the time these guys are kind of over the hill past their prime, they're coming off the books that we can roll over into another younger player, because that's always been Steve Yzerman's goal. Long-term success, sustainability. And you can't have sustainability unless you can have roster turnover. And he is setting up the team nicely to have roster turnover because the guys he's giving 5-year contracts to are 28 years old. Last year, Andrew Kopp. This year, JT Compher. Not like in 5 years, but it's 20 for a 28-year-old who, is going to be playing in his prime on all 5 of those years. Ben Sherratt gave 4 years. Thought that was a little bit of a stretch, but you got to do what you got to do to get the guy you want. Justin Hall got 3 years. He's 31. So these are guys whose contracts are all going to expire at the end of their prime for the roster turnover, for the long-term sustainability. Like that's the goal. And it's such a smart, I realized this yesterday as we were talking about Justin Hall. I'm like, this is clearly intentional. Like 5 years seems like a lot for JT Compher, but he's 28. So the big question mark then becomes with the 5 years is the productivity. Does the productivity make the 5 years worth it? And he's coming off of a career year, Scotty. He had 50. So I'm on the wrong tab. He had 52 points, yep. 17 goals and 35 assists. He's definitely a playmaker more than anything. He had got a lot more exposure this year than he would have on previous years because Colorado Avalanche were extremely banged up, but playing in a more increased role, he hit a career high. And so coming off a team that won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago, he made sense that he was going to get paid. The question is in reality, Scotty, like what is his actual production level going to be? Do we think the career high is sustainable? I keep saying that word. Or is he probably going to fall back to where he usually is, which is around 30, 35 points?
I think there's a real reality where neither of those are true. And I think the reason why is if you look at the average time on ice, and you mentioned it there is a 3 minute, almost 4 minute gap between what he did this year and what he had done literally in the first 5 years of his career. And you had mentioned that was, they had a lot of injuries, so he had to play up and whatnot. Most of his career, he's sitting between 14 and 16 minutes a night, 16 and a half minutes a night. And then this year played over 20 minutes a night. Now, we're not expecting Compher to come in and be a top line player. I think most people are under the assumption, myself included, that he's going to be the 2C on this team. But if he is, that would probably slate him at somewhere between that almost 21 minutes a night, but still more than that 16 minutes a night that he had gotten in a lot of years past. So I think that the production, he's never had a season in the 40s for production. Everything's either 30 or lower. And then this year was the 52 pointer because of the increased role. I think you probably are signing up for somewhere in the half point a game type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, if he could replicate 52 points again this coming up year, that'd be phenomenal. But I think I'd be satisfied with between 40 and 45 points, just to find that be his, have that be his norm, because he's going to have that increased role he saw with the Colorado Avalanche. That's going to be the case with the Detroit Red Wings. He's going to be playing middle six, second line or third line for most of the season. We're going to take a quick break, Scotty, and when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation about JT Compher, get into a little bit more of the advanced analytics But first, I got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to over under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are talking about JT Compher. And Scotty, you talked a lot about fit. And this year, just like last year, it's kind of funny how these last two off seasons have kind of mirrored each other in this unique way. And the fact that the Red Wings last year got Ben Sherratt, defenseman that was kind of controversial. This year got Justin Hall, defenseman that's kind of controversial. And then last year they got Andrew Kopp, a center / wing coming off a career year, hoping you can replicate that, sign to a 5-year, $5 million deal. This year you get JT Compher, center / wing coming off a career year, hoping you can replicate that kind of productivity, signed to a 5x5 year. Like, it's crazy how mirrored these two things are. And it's not a coincidence. And JT Compher is kind of like a parallel yet inverse of Andrew Kopp. And I know that's kind of a contradiction, but I mean, they're both middle six centers who can play wing that play two-way games, but it's just the way that two-way game tends to lean that's a little bit different. Andrew Kopp was a two-way center who had a little bit more of a defensive touch than he did offensive. Whereas with JT Compher, while he doesn't score goals, his goals above replacement heavily outweighs his goals above replacement on defense. He's got a little bit more of an offensive side. Andrew Kopp plays PK, JT Compher plays power play. So while they're very similar in that they're both two-way forwards, they just lean a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think that is a absolutely perfect way to describe it. I think that he is. That's the reason why I think the fit is so good. Like, this is a hockey team that is actively trying to get as many two-way forwards really as they can, right? Like, this is a hockey team that the system that they ran last year really, really, really favored aggressive, defensive, even go as far as to say just like aggressive forechecking forwards, right? And obviously there's a lot more to the defensive side of being a forward than just forechecking, but like that really, really helped this defense. And when talking about the players that they're looking to bring in, they all seem to be, even on draft night, like everybody, all the forwards they draft, like, oh, good two-way ability, whatever. Like, that's Yzerman's MO, and that's very much Newsy's system at play as well. And so I think that when you're looking, like you said, I mean, Kopp was more of like a little bit truer defensive defenseman, where Compher's more of a puck mover offensively, but still brings good defensive. And I'm very excited to watch him in this system, because I think that, Colorado is obviously a very successful team with a loaded roster when they're fully healthy. But that's really like a run and gun, we're going to outscore the heck out of you type of system, right? And I think Compher has a chance to really come into his own and really solidify himself as a very solid two-way forward in this league as a part of the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, and you can see just by looking at the graph how his goals above replacement works at even strength. He's in the 75th percentile for goals above replacement, where at defense he's in the 57th percentile, so both above replacement level at providing goals. So offense, obviously much more than the defense, for a total of an overall of 76th percentile as a forward. And you can see where he provided a ton to the power play this past year as well. And he did play 174 time had 174 time on the ice, 174 minutes. Why do I keep saying time on the ice? Bizarre way of putting it. He had 174 minutes on the penalty kill as well, but you can see by looking at the graph that that's starkly in the red. So maybe not so much penalty kill with the Detroit Red Wings, but that could also get better, because the Red Wings
also doesn't need to be here.
Yeah, he doesn't also need to be. But yeah, that's overall. I mean, JT Compher is going to bring you stability in your middle six on both offense and defense. And that's primarily what this team desperately needs. So I with JT Compher, I'm so happy with the acquisition. A little wary of how much money he's making, but again, with him being 28 and with the cap going up, it feels like it'll, again, I use the same term I talked about with Justin Hall. It feels like it'll be drops in the bucket by near the end of that contract. The question becomes, Scotty, is where does he really fit in this roster?
Yeah, I've said it already a few times throughout the episode. I am firmly of the belief that on opening night he's going to be the 2C. I think, like you said, that they have the ability to play him at wing. I'm kind of interested in the. Let me throw this at you.
Okay.
5-on-5 2C power play, move him to the wing.
What? I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, like
who's gonna
have like, yeah, no, I mean, like he clearly he is effective on the power play. You don't need him to be the center on your power play 1. Maybe he's just your power play 2 center, but I don't know. I think if you really wanted to make sure he got out on the ice, you could probably facilitate something like that. Regardless, at even strength, I firmly believe that the plan is for him to be the 2C. I think you don't give somebody that term, that AAV, etc., without a plan to plug them and have them take on a decently serious role off rip. So I imagine he's going to be a part of the top 6 going into the season.
Yeah, I feel like I'd rather have him be the center of your second line power play because of the fact that he's more of a playmaker than he is a goal scorer.
Agreed.
I would
That's
kind
fine.
of like him to be like the bumper on power play too, right in the middle, helping to provide and facilitate for the other players on the power play who have the finishing ability.
It's what he did well on the power play
Kubelik.
last year. So 100%.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's probably where I'd have him on the power play. As far as as it goes in the lineup, I mean, 2C I could see, but I'm leaning towards 3C right now with the Red Wings. And that's not an insult, but like it's, Copper or JT Compher is going to be your centers in the middle 6, right? Unless you're moving one of them to the wing, which you could definitely do. Some people make the argument that Cop's a better winger than he is a center, despite the fact that he's pretty good on the face-off. And then you also have to think about what about Joe Veleno and Marco Kasper, and what about Michael Rasmussen? What if what are you going to there's a conversation to be had about where these guys are going to go. And obviously, I don't think Cop or Compher is going to play 4C. That's not going to happen. But I could see a reality where JT Compher is your third line center and Cop is your second line center,
Sure. Yeah, I guess
I think it's interchangeable.
Yeah, I don't think that's totally out of the realm of possibility either. I think, yeah, I mean, fair. I think that you are trying to increase your offensive output. And for that reason, I would say you play the better offensive center that is still solid defensively at 2C. And then you can have Copper down there at 3C.
That's
and
fair.
He can be kind of the anchor of the bottom 6, that's kind of facilitating and leading the pack of like, we're just not going to give up goals. We don't expect too much production down here maybe, but we're going to play good defensive hockey down here on the whatever bottom 6. And I think there's just so much of a focus that this team really, really wants to increase goal scoring. Like, and clearly they didn't go out and yet, fingers crossed, get the, like 40 goal scorer type of player. However, they did add a lot of players depth wise that are going to get you 5 more goals than the player they're replacing, right? The Adam Ernies of the world and whatnot, Pius Suter, etc. So I think that to push that agenda along, you probably put Compher at 2C. But I who knows? We go into camp. Andrew Copp looks amazing because he's not coming off of core muscle surgery. He's the 2C, not out of the realm of possibility at all.
No, and for what it's worth, too, JT Compher is one of just 4 Colorado Avalanche players who did play all 82 games last year. I don't know where 4 came from. I don't know where my mind's at today. And despite that, he still posted a 1.31 relative expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. So he played all 82 games last season, one of 4 players to do so, and posted a positive expected goals for relative to his teammates. So like clearly he is an asset on the ice. And
Yeah.
while he might not be a game-changing asset, the fact of the matter is he helps flesh out this team's depth and makes them so much better down the middle, because it's not all about scoring. If the Red Wings get Alex DeBrincat, hell yeah, like that's your goal scoring, right? But when DeBrincat's not on the ice, you're going to need guys out there who are going to still be able to out hustle their opponents and play good defense. And JT Compher is that guy. So
incredible puck mover, even if the points aren't jumping off the page at you. Incredible puck mover that's going to play sound defense as well.
Responsible defensively. So I'm excited as all hell for JT Compher.
Me too.
To come play with the Detroit Red Wings. And
I think
he was a guy I pointed out during before free agency started as a guy I'd like them to target. I didn't think he'd get 5x5, but regardless, here he is. So that about does it. Do you have any other final thoughts on JT Compher?
I don't think so. Just I really like the fit, and the fit becomes even more of a perfect fit with a 40 goal scorer at the top.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss how do you feel about a Friday? So it's not really a discussion, it's just questions.
It's a discussion.
Well, sometimes my brain is just on autopilot and like it starts just saying words, and then I realize, oh wait, that's not really the direction it's going. My mouth does its own
your normal transition is, and we are going to discuss.
Yeah.
And then
how do you feel about it Friday? We're not going to have a how do you feel about it Friday. We're going to discuss the implications.
Right. We're going to discuss how it works and how you feel about it.
Yes. How do you feel about it Friday? So stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's Friday, man. It's Friday. That's all I got to say.
It is.
I mean, it's technically Thursday when we're recording this, but it's our final episode of the week. So it's Friday to everyone else.
It's our Friday.
It's our Friday. Scotty, how do you feel about Fridays?
Great day.
Great days.
Very big fan. Big fan of Fridays. Yeah, I'm pro.
How do you feel about the Tigers losing 1-0, wasting a gem of a performance by Tarek Skubal, Erod getting shelled and they lose 12-3, but then winning 9-0 against the worst team in baseball?
Yeah. I mean, you can go watch Locked On Tigers, and the last 3 days of Locked On Tigers has been a roller coaster for sure. I think the first loss was just like really frustrating and stupid and dumb. And Thursday, the finale was obviously a great win. But game 2, that was really the one that I think really like struck people, like really like hit home, but like resonated with people. Because like the A's are historically awful. And the Tigers got pumped at home. Like 4th of July crowd, they got shut out in game 1 of the series, and then got absolutely destroyed in a nice crowd again on day 2. And I think it also didn't help that the president of baseball ops was like in the booth in the 3rd inning. Like he got interviewed mid-game, and the game that we lost, gave up 13 runs to the Oakland Athletics. Like it was just a perfect storm of just a huge slap in the face to a lot of people. And so it's over. We won on Thursday. And a lot of players are coming back. Riley Green will be back on Saturday, it sounds like. Little inside scoop there. So, hopefully we can get as far away from that as possible. But trade deadline on the tick now. So,
yeah.
How do you feel about... I don't want to just like do only Tiger stuff the whole time, but how do you feel about Michael Lorenzen being the Tigers All-Star?
Dude, I was like, who? And then he went out there and had a stellar performance on Thursday. But I was like, not Alex Lang, not Foley. Like there were other guys. I was just surprised because Lorenzen has been mid. Not horrible, but he's been mid.
He's the only healthy starter, which I think is why he's the All-Star. He literally was the only healthy All-Star the only healthy starting pitcher we had when the decision was made. So
I think a lot of it has to do too with the fact that, like, you could have gone with Foley, but I'm sure there are other teams that had like really good players at that position as well, and only like one guy can get picked. So it's kind of like you fill out the best of the best, and you see what you have left at what position. And you just kind of...
That's the thing is. On the American League, honestly, the American League, the American League Central, even specifically, is loaded with like elite closers. Like, there's an argument the two best closers in baseball are in the American League Central on the Guardians and the Twins. So like, it was never going to be Lang. He had a bad June anyway, but like, I did think it was going to be Foley. So yeah, just Michael Lorenzen, 2023 All-Star, baby.
What do you think about Threads or Thread?
Uh,
It's called?
Yeah, it is called Threads. So here's been my thing this whole time. That's a great one. My thing this entire, we'll call it the Elon era of Twitter. Okay. My thing the entire time has been it feels like once a month, everybody's like, oh, this app is cooked. It's going under. We're toast. And then it never actually happens.
Yeah.
And so I am of the belief that, like, I have a Threads page or account or whatever it's called. I made one just in case. But, like, I am of the belief that I will, like, I'll believe it when I see it. Like, I refuse to believe that Twitter is actually going anywhere until the day it happens, because we've been pump faked like 6 times in the last 6 months. Like, literally, it seems like once a month. It's like, oh, that's the decision that's going to do it. We're done. We're out of here. And then, like, no one leaves and everything just kind of settles and goes back to normal after 3 days. So,
Yeah.
like,
I feel like the difference, if anything, this time is that, like, Threads, what Twitter really needed was like a serious competitor with a serious backing. And like, some people flock to Mastodon, but like, Mastodon was such a grassroots program that it never really had a chance
there's a
to
few.
challenge. Yeah. And like,
Sky or whatever is
Blue
the other
Sky.
one that a lot of people made.
And people were waiting for Blue Sky. It's in like beta right now, I think.
Yeah, you
because
can,
it's the founder of Twitter that's making it. So it's literally just gonna be Twitter again.
right.
But then Threads came out of nowhere. At least I had never heard of it. And this is a Facebook property, a meta property. So it's going to link all 3 of your accounts.
Right.
So like, this one, I think, has like a chance, assuming that, Elon doesn't nuke it. He said he's threatening to sue it, but whatever. I mean, he threatens to do things all the time, and then he just makes you pay for basic functions.
No, but that I agree with
Mark.
you. I think this is probably the most serious threat. Also, this is a hockey podcast. We have no idea what we're talking about. But like, I do think that there is, like, Threads could give it a run. Have you tried it yet? Like,
No, I don't. I haven't even downloaded it.
Okay, so I have it. The only issue with it, mainly, that I have right now, like, it's a fine interface. Everything, like, loads fine. You know, it looks clean. All that's great. The issue is that nothing on your homepage is like people you follow. Like, it's just like random, like, accounts out there. Like, they are neat. It's like, it's not that hard of a concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not that difficult of a concept to grasp, I feel like. But people just want to see what they want to see and not just get like, oh, here's everything else around what you want to see. No, I just want what I want. Like, so I don't know if they fix that. It's early on, whatever. We'll see where they go with it. But yeah, I'm very fascinated by the I don't know, the war ongoing between the two of them.
It's like the For You tab on Twitter. No one likes that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, get that out of here.
How do you feel about about my facial hair today? It's pretty good, right?
A little bit more stubbly than normal.
It's getting shaved very quickly.
Mm.
I was just looking at your, like, perfect mustache beard trim combo you got going over there, and I just, like, showed up today.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it would fill up on the cheeks a little bit more, like a little higher, like here. But that's like splitting hairs. Pretty good. Other than that, I can't complain. Hey, nice. The one place I can split hairs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, mine. I just can't do it, man. I don't think I ever will be able to. I think I'm too old to the point where like this is probably just never going to be a thing for you. You know?
My dad's facial hair is very nice as well. So at one
Nice.
point we were rocking like the same beard. So
Wow.
the only difference was his was gray.
Nice, nice.
But I will say he had a goatee all my life growing up. I rocked the full beard, and then all of a sudden I show up one day and he's got a full beard. Too. What's
Wow.
going on here?
Trendsetter?
I-
Brian Fisher, trendsetter, enforcer, trendsetter,
Just saying.
prospect. Just add to the resume.
I'm
What can't he
unretiring.
do? Truly, what can't he do?
Yeah, that about does it, man. We'll be back. Our final thoughts, I guess. I gotta make sure we get the signature phrase in.
It's funny. I had somebody comment "we ball" on a Tigers episode this week, and I was like, I don't say it on the Tigers show, so I was just like, oh, that's
it's our thing.
Right. That's a ride or die listener right there. Just taking in all the content. I love it. But yeah, I don't think so. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so. We ball.
Stevie, wait till Sunday to get to Brinket. Please.
Monday would be really great. MLB draft Sunday.
Okay. We'll be back with a
your boy.
new episode on Monday. So stay tuned. Same time, same place. Your team every day.